First of all, I want to welcome everybody. This is a great night. It's a great night, certainly for Sally, but it's a great night for every citizen of our community. To be able to recognize a lady that has meant so much to the progress of our area, not only just Centerville and the township and the entire Miami Valley. Her involvement has just made it much better for all the citizens around us. So again, it's a great night for everybody. What I'd like to do now is to get started with an invocation. I would like to have Pastor Charlie Woodward from Epiphany come on up and say a few words.
Thank you. On behalf of Epiphany Lutheran Church, where John and Sally attend, we are glad to be a part of this event. Let us begin with a word of prayer. Almighty and gracious God, bless this moment with your presence. We gather this day to pay tribute and give thanks for Sally Beals and her leadership and commitment to this community. Thank you for giving her the vision, the strength, the passion to work for this community and its people. May her work and legacy provide an example for those who follow along the path she paved as a member of City Council and as a mayor of Centerville for so many years. Bless our celebration and empower us to work for the good of all, taking to heart the Foundation's mission of helping people help our community. May we be your hands and feet in the world, serving as you have served us, loving as you have loved us. To you, the author and giver of life, we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. I would like now to recognize, I forgot my note over here. Somebody has to be in charge of watching me at all times. First of all, I'd like to recognize our elected officials. If you would stand when I announce them. First of all, John Beals, Scott Paulson from the township, Bill Sayre from the city, Joyce Young from the township, Brooks Compton, the mayor, and Dale Berry, township trustee. So I want to thank you. Oh, and Joanne Rao from the city. Okay. I would like to also recognize my fellow trustees on the township. So if you would, the trustees that are here, please stand and be recognized. The Centerville-Washington Foundation, it's certainly, I wouldn't say ironic, but it's certainly interesting that here we are to honor Sally for her work in the city where everybody knows, but Sally was also the one instrumental in forming the Centerville-Washington Foundation. And we are here as a foundation to make a difference, to provide that margin of excellence in our community. We're here to move the needle on philanthropy. And I would also say at this time that we couldn't do it without our partner, the Dayton Foundation. The Dayton Foundation, we operate as a component fund of the Dayton Foundation, which allows us to operate under their umbrella, both for reporting, for insurance, for just basic processing of information, and it just really, without them, it would be difficult to operate a foundation in our community. They are also a tremendous partner in terms of moving the needle, because we recognize that all people that really have are philanthropy minded don't necessarily want all of their money focused in that area, but so that way we can operate in partnership with them for whatever their charitable desires are, whether it's in this community or not. So again, thank you to the Dayton Foundation. And while we're doing that, before we get started in the formal program, I would like to honor and bring up Janice McLafresh. Come on up, Janice. She didn't know this was happening. Janice is the lady that has been keeping us straight for quite a few years from the Dayton Foundation, and this will be her last event. And have you retired already, or is it?
Tomorrow's my last day.
Tomorrow's her last day, so she can probably stay out a little later tonight. You know? It's not going to be a heavy workload tomorrow. So, Janice, we want to formally thank you for everything you have done for us, and we have
Oh my goodness.
flowers for you.
Okay.
Okay, and thank you very much, and enjoy many, many, many years of retirement.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Again, a brief overview this year. We will award, we are in the middle of our second round of grants, and at the end of this year, we will have awarded approximately $20,000 in grants thanks to your generosity. And our goal is to move the needle to the point where in 2 years, that number is 40,000. I can tell you, and I can, and please trust in me, that there are needs. There are the programs that we focus on are social needs programs, food to go programs, food pantry, shoes, clothing. We look at the arts, whether it be for the concert that the city promotes during the summer at Stubbs Park, whether it be for Woodland Lights. So there are needs, and again, Sally's vision was that we provide the margin of excellence, and we want to do more of that. So in order to do more of that, we do need your continued support, and I thank you for that. Now, we do have a proclamation to be read by Scott Paulson. So Scott, I'd ask you to come on up.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Sally, what an honor this is for you and your family this day. We're proud to be here with you. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Washington Township, Joyce Young, Dale Berry, and Tom Zobrist, we congratulate you on this wonderful honor. And an even larger congratulations on your 59 years of marriage. That was wonderful. Your mark is lasting on this community, on this foundation, and on this city, which bears your fingerprints throughout its history. Your dedication to this community far outlasts your term as an elected mayor. So I'm sure your family can attest your countless hours of service to the city does not go unnoticed. And this community still continues to breathe the life that you work so tirelessly to put into it. You're truly living up to the mission of this organization, helping people help our community. At most events we attend in this community, you're there, always a smiling face and a supportive voice. I'm glad to hear your positive comments. You're always welcome advice, even though I may not always want to hear it. And I'm glad to see you there at all times. So on behalf of a gracious township, I'm pleased to present this proclamation on behalf of the Board of Trustees. And I'll read it in part. Whereas Sally Beals has been named the recipient of the 2017 Community Founders Award from the Centerville-Washington Foundation. Whereas the impetus for a community foundation originated with Sally, who, as the mayor of Centerville, identified unmet financial needs from local organizations and began discussions as to how those needs could be met. Whereas Sally's community contributions have been extensive, including 8 years as a council member, 8 years as a mayor, leadership roles in the city's Centerville Board of Architectural Review, many task forces, sister city commissions, youth exchange, and Benham's Grove. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Washington Township Board of Trustees that Sally Beals be congratulated on receiving the Founders Award, and furthermore that she be sincerely thanked for her outstanding leadership and extensive contributions to this community. Congratulations, Sally.
As I mentioned, the foundation, one of the fun things we do is to put on this founders event, because I look at the people that we have honored in the past, and I'd like to recognize Paul Heinz as one of our prior honorees. But the founders event is really to recognize the people that have helped to weave the fabric of our community. And we all know we would not be what we are today without the great people that have come before us and the people that have done the heavy lifting in making Centerville and Washington Township what it is today. So I enjoy this evening because it's time to recognize those people. And Sally, you certainly are a founder, and you have certainly spent a lot of time weaving that fabric in our community. So what we have today, and Carol Kennard is going to be introducing a lot of the program, but we're going to start with a video. No, we're not.
Let me talk first.
Wait a minute. It says here.
Introduce me.
Oh,
Introduce me. Let me talk
this
first.
is Carol.
Hello, everybody. I'm Carol Kennard, and I'm one of the board members on the Centerville-Washington Foundation, so welcome, everyone. I wanted to say just a few words, and then we'll get started here. First of all, I wanted to recognize Sally's family, who is here tonight, and introduce them to you. Sally's husband, John, who you've met already, husband of 59 years. Awesome. I guess, can I talk about you together, John and Sally together? Their son, John, and his wife, Lori. And their daughter, Nancy. We're really glad you could be here tonight, and it's really nice to meet you, too. So tonight we are here to honor Sally Beals for her commitment and dedication to our community. Many of us know Sally for her 8 years of leadership on City Council, followed by 8 years as mayor of Centerville during a time of growth for the city. Or that she's been a member of the Centerville Rotary Club since 1993. And you probably know she's a big Buckeye fan, having graduated from The Ohio State University with a degree in home economics. But did you know she was valedictorian for her class at Tippecanoe High School, where she also played clarinet, and placed in the state knowledge competition Quill and Scroll? Or that she learned about running a household and investments when her mother passed away at an early age, and that she owns a farm in Tip City, where at the age of 10, she earned $404.71, I think I got that right, for her 4-H project steer at the county fair. So there are many factors and experiences that may lead someone to public service. Tonight we'll see that Sally has been involved in giving back to her community in many different ways. We're lucky to have several people here to share some of their stories of Sally, so we can all have a better understanding and appreciation of this woman who's contributed so much to our community. But before we get to our first speaker, I'd like to bring your attention to the table centerpieces. They were designed by Debbie Lobeck and Lynn Utz, and they have special meaning. The wood bases came from Sally's farm. The Buckeyes were from a tree in her yard. The photos came from scrapbooks that John John snuck out of the house and let me borrow for a little bit. And the plants and vines that are there are ones that Sally grew in her backyard. So we hope that you'll enjoy them tonight, and then please elect somebody at your table to take it home with you so you can enjoy it. So we'd like to get on with the program. And our first speaker actually couldn't be here tonight, so we have a video message from Gordon Honeyman, who is a longtime friend of Sally's from Tip City.
Hi, Sally. I'm here with an old friend of yours who has a few words to say. Gordon, welcome.
Thank you, and congratulations, Sally, on this wonderful occasion. It's richly deserved. My name is Gordon Honeyman, and I grew up with Sally in Tip City, Ohio. Sally's parents were both from long-standing Tippecanoe families, generations old and very well respected. We grew up in an idyllic town setting, and our early years were during World War II. Our parents, however, sheltered us from those horrible events, and we really knew nothing about them. Tip City at that time was a freestanding community, not a suburb of Dayton. In fact, a trip to shop at Reich's was considered a treat, and we loved it. Sally was lucky that her family also owned a family farm in nearby Bethel Township, where she spent many, many happy days driving a tractor, plowing the fields, planting a garden, reaping the harvest, and riding her horse. Sally went through all 12 years of school in Tip City and showed signs of good learning from an early age. In high school, she excelled in all her classes, taking the most difficult courses Tippecanoe High School could offer. At the same time, she participated in many, many school activities, including student council, the senior scholarship team, editor of the yearbook, which was a wonderful job. I know because I was on her staff. Tri-Hi-Y, which was a girls' service organization, Latin Club, and the ultimate, at the end of her school year, she became valedictorian of her 1955 class of Tippecanoe High School. Very good job, Sally. She was also very active in her Zion Lutheran Church family, participating in many religious retreats. She was a good citizen of our community and has carried that on into her adult life here in Centerville. When she became mayor of your wonderful town, we in Tip were very proud. When she convinced our city manager, Greg Horn, to come to Centerville, we hated to lose him, but we congratulated her on her good instincts. So Sally, congratulations from your hometown on a life well lived, and wishing you and John many years of happiness. And special congratulations for being a founding member of the Centerville-Washington Township Foundation. You have left a permanent imprint, and you should be very proud. I know we are.
Gordon, thank you very much for those great words. That is awesome, and it gives us a real view back into Sally's early years. Thank you very much for doing this.
More than welcome.
And we're sorry you can't join us on this fine evening.
I am too.
Okay, good.
I would like to invite Nancy Beals up to the podium, please. Can you speak loudly, Nancy?
I'll do my best. I may have to walk around a bit then. Well, good evening, and it is indeed a pleasure to join you tonight, especially the members of the Centerville-Washington Foundation. I appreciate this honor that you have given to my mother, Sally Drewing Beals. She has long been an advocate for excellence, community spirit, and self-reliance. For us, her children, that legacy is reflected in the many ways she helped to guide our growth and development. I hope in sharing these stories to capture the essence of her character and what we grew up with. Mother has always been one to call out hypocrisy when she sees it. She has had an expectation of fairness. One example of this that I learned about a little bit after the fact. I have long known that I was one of the first girl acolytes at Epiphany Lutheran Church. I did not know that that happened in some part because of Mother's intercession and speaking with the pastor at the time. And one can only imagine what that conversation might have gone like. Something to the way of, what do you mean girls can't be acolytes? What kind of rubbish is that? Of course they can. And lo and behold, they could, and I did, and this church still stands. Self-reliance, as has been pointed out, Mother is a farm girl. Now, mind you, she did not live on the farm. Her mother made sure that they had a house in town. But much of her time was spent at the farm helping with various chores and taking care of her horse, Beauty. Growing up in an era when the world was at war, she learned the importance of self-reliance, the importance of planning for beyond the current day. Those skills were evident in the attention she paid to taking advantage of the summer harvest by preserving fruits and vegetables for later use. Those were efforts that engaged all of us, the family, in the process. Among my memories of the farm revolves around sweet corn. Sweet corn is best when consumed the same day it is picked. I hope all of us have that appreciation. Every year, about August, my brother and I and Mother would go up to the farm and pick enough sweet corn to fill the back end of a station wagon. So I want you to picture that. We then came home, and John and I had the chore then of shucking all of that corn. And we had a 2-story house, so we had to then run the corn not through the house, but around the house up to the kitchen steps, so we didn't get that mess, right? And then Mother would blanch it and take it off the cob and put it into freezer containers, which then we had to carry back down and put into the freezer, which was downstairs. But then if there was some left over, and frequently there was, we would then load that up. We had the ever-present red flyer wagon that we would then load up with that sweet corn and peddle it around to our neighbors and sell that and raise a little money. This, of course, was not the only food that she put up every year. She canned tomatoes, bread and butter pickles, made jam, and those projects built competence in us and warmed our table with goodness. Mother is also known for being a planner. Invitations for holiday events were issued at least a month in advance. Growing up, again, we all participated in preparing for holidays and special occasions. 2 memories that illustrate that preparedness involves Christmas and my grandfather's 90th birthday. Christmas is a season, not a day, and in some ways begins with the commencement of bread baking every fall. I'm not sure how many of you bake your own bread. Okay. Well, on the day that is designated for bread baking, we make 3 kinds of bread. There's the Swedish rye bread, there's the crescent rolls, the butter horns, and then stollen, which is a braided bread that has candied fruit in it. Now, we don't just make 1 or 2 of those loaves, mind you. We make like 16 loaves of rye bread and God knows how many rolls and not quite as much of the stollen. I think the candied fruit is more expensive or something. But, we put that away, and then anytime for Saturday dinners or Sunday dinners, we could bring out a loaf of bread and have something special for that meal. We also got the opportunity to take not only those baked products, we baked a lot of cookies in our house, particularly around Easter or Christmas. And then John and I would take boxes to our teachers and to the school bus driver in appreciation of their service during the school year and thank them for their help. So, this plenitude went beyond our own household. The other memory is the year that my grandfather turned 90, and Mother took on the task of hosting the birthday party to celebrate that. Now, her plan was to make a tiered cake, and for weeks, maybe even months, leading up to that event, we had a lot of cake around our house. Because Mother was looking for just the right recipe that had sufficient flavor, but enough structure to be able to do the tiered process with. And so I remember that particular summer of all the cake that we got to eat. Mother is also a talented knitter, seamstress. She made many of my outfits as a child. Each Christmas, she would make a special dress for the holiday that I would get to open on Christmas Eve and wear to church that night. She's made everything from coats to nightgowns to swimwear, shorts, and even bell-bottoms, hip-hugging pants, as was the style. Bright yellow with, it's cool. As the three of us became older and more self-reliant, Mother began to expand her energies to work on civic matters, beginning with the Sister Cities Committee and continuing to the role of mayor. Perhaps you have seen her many skills and her love of community as expressed. This foundation provides opportunities for all of us to generate a community that is both warm and caring. Thank you.
Well, Nancy alluded to three of them. Yes, Sally has another daughter who was unable to be here tonight. She lives in Florida, and since she couldn't be here, she wanted to send a video message as well. So we'll hear from Jennifer Beals and her family.
Sending you greetings from
warm and sunny Florida
to warm and cheerful Centerville.
Congratulations, Grandma. Hello, Mom Beals. It's Todd. Just a moment to recognize you on your evening and one of many things that I could point out. One thing that comes to mind is your integrity to keeping alive family tradition. As I spend time on the family farm and you lead the group to keep alive the memories from the past, there's nothing more that could be a statement to who you are underneath it all. You deserve everything you have coming to you tonight, and it's a pleasure to know you. Have a good night.
First of all, congratulations, Grandma, for this amazing award. It shows how hard you have worked for the city and the people in it. I have been asked to talk about a few memories I share with you. One of them being how many times you have sent me to Camp Kern so generously, in Navy camp more recently. It's helped me shape into the person I am today. I also remember all the times we watched NCIS and read books together and talked about times of past. Congratulations, Grandma, for this amazing award you achieved. I love you.
Super excited for you to get this award tonight. How awesome is it that you are recognized for all the hard work that you did for the city between Benham's Grove and Yankee Trace and Stubbs Park, so many different adventures that you've had in the city. It's well deserved. Sharing some memories of our childhood, so many memories, great things that we did growing up. I think of a few come to mind that I thought was worth sharing tonight. One is I remember how cool a mom you were. I remember being in early high school, I believe, when we had taken up skiing. Of course, I took up skiing years before, and you had taken it up with me. And I remember a day when you let me skip school to play hooky so that you and I could go skiing together up at, I believe it was Bell Fountain. And we took off for the day and had a big time, just the two of us. I remember a infamous trip to Washington, D.C., where Dad wasn't able to go with us on the front end, so he had to meet us out there. So he gave me the task of learning how to read a map and navigating our journeys with, a few minor mistakes. A lunch at Greenbrier and a trip through Monticello. We made it to D.C., stayed at the Washington, D.C. in the JW Marriott, infamously watching Nancy Reagan walk through the lobby thinking, how cool is this? I had a really amazing time. That trip, among many, many other great trips we took as a family. And of course, the last memory, as we all have memories, such loving memories of the farm. I think of as soon after Grandpa's passing and the many hours we spent cleaning, days and days and days spent cleaning out the farm. Grandpa being such a collector of odd items and bolts and miscellaneous everything that you and I and Nancy at times would go through and clean out. And of course the ultimate setting there was the corn crib where the grain was kept for feed cattle. But of course the cattle had long been sold off and the grain had sat in this caboose for years and years before. And as different rodents had investigated and found this heaven of grain and corn at least 2 feet deep in this caboose, they would plunge to their death in eager of their excitement of the food they were going to eat, so that when we got to clean it out, every shovelful was filled with a mass of rodents that we had to clean out to eradicate the barn and the corn crib of all the rodents that had been left behind. Again, a memory I'll never forget, and the smell. Again, these are just a very few snippets of what a great childhood I had and how great Centerville means to me and our family. We love this town and we love everything that it has become, and super proud of the city and of course my mom.
My grandma. Wow, I really don't know where to start. I guess I'll start off with how much I love you. You're the root to my northern star, and you're also like my fairy grandmother. I love you so much, more than what I can express. You've taught me so much about history and told me so many stories. My favorite memory would probably have to be the one when I always go into a presidential home and try to find facts that you don't know about and call you right up and see if you know it. Most of the time you already know them, but I can find one or two you don't know about. Looking at photos and videos and articles, I can see how much you've done for this town. I'm so glad to be hearing you getting this award, Grandma. You deserve it. I don't think I could be me without you or this town, Grandma. Centerville, you have changed so much because of my so cool and awesome grandma. You rock, Grandma. I love you so much.
Okay, we can get the hankies out now. Isn't that awesome? All right, we've heard from the girls. Now let's hear from Sally's son, John. Guess I can put it back in there.
Hello. It's a tough act to follow. So it's an honor for me to share with you for a couple of minutes and for this great evening. I left town 30-some years ago, my recollections of home were, getting me to school on time, or to band practice, or to wrestling, or whatever. So In the years since, when I call back to home, the discussions are, sister cities and Benham's Grove and waste treatment plants and Rotary events and service projects. And it occurred to me, it says, boy, us kids must have really been cramping Mom's style, because our issues were minimal relative to all her projects and service in the intervening years. I do have a couple of stories I wanted to share. One is a recent one. My son Peter and I have been active in Boy Scouts, and our scoutmaster is a general contractor, and he has jobs throughout the state and also throughout the country. So we never shared a whole lot of details with our scoutmaster, but he happened to have a job here in Washington Township at the Petco or Pet People or something like that, and he was driving through town and stopped at and saw the clock, and happened to notice the names on the rock underneath the clock. And it says, "Do you know these people?" Yes, very well. So it occurs to me that something like the street clock is, maybe take for granted, but it really is an identifier for the community, and people that drive through and do notice these things. So I just wanted to share that. The second story I wanted to share was going further back, is childhood vacation. When I was 10 or 12 years old, we were going to Yellowstone, and we were going to, we loaded the family station wagon, the old Vista Cruiser, me and my sister, and headed off for a couple weeks for Yellowstone and Tetons and Badlands and things like that. So I remember being very excited about that trip. But I know those of you who know my mother know that she's a real history buff. Especially American history, and especially American presidents. And so even to this day, we birthday presents and things are often a history book, of the latest authored book. So anyway, for me at that age, I was just anxious to get to Yellowstone, but of course we couldn't get to Yellowstone before stopping in Independence, Missouri, and seeing Truman's residence. And then we had to stop in Abilene, Kansas, and see Eisenhower's residence. And then, of course, when there's probably some others in there. And, of course, by the time we made the Badlands, we had to be reminded that Teddy Roosevelt is part of the parks. So kind of ingrained in everything we did, I think, was history. And I think I guess maybe the thought of the legacy of what people before us have done to enhance our experience, the country's and the world's experience. So it just so even though it seemed like a waste of time, I guess when I was 12, it was really a useful stop to check out these presidents and see a little bit about what they did, and so. Thank you very much.
Very nice, John. Those presidents, they get you every time, don't they? Love it. All right, I'd like to bring up our mayor, Brooks Compton.
We had a little microphone trouble earlier this evening. The only person in the room who was totally relaxed was our ex-city manager, Greg Horn. He would have been on the phone dealing with that right away. And I want to introduce and it did get taken care of, but I wanted to introduce our new city manager back in the back. Wayne Davis is back in the back. You know, after listening to Nancy's stories about growing up in your household, I'm sorry I didn't move to your neighborhood when we moved to Centerville. You had more goods and baked goods and all that stuff. We really would have enjoyed that. And I know the next time I see Jennifer, the only thing I'm going to be able to think about is the story about the corn and Klamath. But I do want to thank you for allowing me just to say a few words about someone who I have a great deal of personal respect for and admiration. Sally, well deserved. And Sally, I have one thing that I think I forgot to bring over here. I know this means something to you. Specifically, it isn't all going to be easy tonight for you, but I have a timer here. And when Sally was mayor, the timer got used in public meetings. So I'll hear to that, Sally. But, all the council who served with Sally when she was mayor know the significance of the timer. And Sally is a disciplined, determined person, and it was evidenced in the meetings and the great meetings that she ran when she was mayor. The Warren Bennis, who was the founder of the University of Southern California's Leadership Institute, he wrote a lot of books about leadership. He wrote a lot of books about habits of successful people and successful leaders. But he made one quote that was kind of led throughout all of his books, and he said, "Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality." Benham's Grove, Stubbs Park, the police headquarters without any incurring additional debt, the Public Works building, money set aside for that during Sally's term, Yankee Trace. The ability to recognize that the time that our previous city manager retired back in 1992, that we needed somebody who had vision and somebody who would work well with the council, and brought in Greg Horn. Sally was there in a leadership role in every one and every step along the way to those successful ventures. Our council relationship. I had the good fortune to be on council with Sally for 8 years, while Sally and I were both council members. And then 2 years while Sally was mayor, after being elected in 1995, and I continued as a council member for 2 years. I can say personally that I was hoping it would be the other way around, that I would be the mayor and Sally would be the council member for 2 years. But the citizens of Centerville made an excellent choice, and it was the right choice, and they elected Sally as our mayor in 1995. Sally was a gracious winner, and anyone who's lost an election knows that it is kind of a stinging defeat, and she was gracious and was very instrumental in allowing me to continue on council, and Sally, I greatly appreciated that very much. Sally and I, along with Mayor Hines and other council members, staff, and Greg Horn, spent many Saturday mornings and late nights working on the development of Yankee Trace. It was a great leadership team that we had with Shirley and Sally and the council members and Greg and the staff. And during this time, we all learned about the many aspects of development, and in particular, we understood the concept of focals and windows. And that is something that all of us out here at the development really emphasized, and Sally, I know, was very much in favor of making sure that the golf course was visible when people drove through, not just to those people who lived here. So if you get a chance to drive, when you get a chance to drive through Yankee Trace, focals and windows, you can think of that. You can see the course from almost every place. And Sally, I know, was very supportive of that. During that course of time, we all got stuck in thunderstorm one day out Saturday morning, got there looking at the course and racing back. We almost put our lives in the hands of a couple council members driving us back. But it was a tremendous experience to be involved in that development. During this time, Sally and all the council members and Shirley worked extremely hard on the projects that we had in front of us. And I could go on for a number of other aspects of involvement, but I want to mention just a couple other things about Sally. She was on the board of directors of the National League of Cities, and for a small city, that is no small measure. People recognized her leadership ability. To be on the board of that was extremely significant. She was the president of the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. Brian, I know you're here, and before your time when you were here, but Sally was president. That's extremely important to a city and a municipality, a small one, to serve in that role. And she also served on the board of directors of the Ohio Municipal League, another recognition of her leadership talents. But I also just want a couple minutes, just very quickly, give you a couple of the behind the scenes working with Sally. A lot of you may not remember, but Benham's Grove was proposed to be a strip shopping center. And Sally got a hold of that idea, and that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to be a video store and things like that. That was going to be preserved. And Sally led the charge along with Shirley and convinced the rest of us that we would turn that into a community gathering place. And I don't think anyone can imagine living in this community now what it would be like not to have Benham's Grove. And Sally opened that facility with a tremendous showcase, and it's been great for the community ever since. Sally, that was great work. Yankee Trace. Yankee Trace was going to be built in a first-class style, and it has been. And it would be a facility that the city residents would be proud of. But there's a hidden secret of one of the aspects of the success of Yankee Trace and why it's so successful for events and things like that. And this magnificent structure was not going to be built without restroom parity between the females and the males in this community. Nobody waits in line in the female restroom around here, is there? And Sally led the charge on that, and I think everyone has thanked Sally for years for that. Sally, the note's going to be paid off in December, and I know you'll be here to participate in that. And just one other final secret discussion, that the naming of Benham's Grove and Yankee Trace probably took us several dozen meetings before we got those resolved. And Benham's Grove and Yankee Trace were the names that Sally was insistent on, and everyone went along with that. And Sally, great job on naming both of those facilities, and worked very hard with Shirley and other council members to make sure those names were enacted. And thank you for that. And in closing, I just want to mention an author, Robert Mager, was quoted as saying, "If you are not sure where you are going, you're liable to end up someplace else." And having had the good fortune to know and work with Sally for 30 plus years, I am confident that Sally has never ended up someplace else. She has always known where she was going, what she wanted to do when she got there, and where she wanted to take the city of Centerville as a council member and as a mayor. For those who have called Centerville home in the recent past, those who call Centerville home today, and for those who will call Centerville home in the future, Sally's knowing where she was going to take it and her ability to take us there as a team with her has been and is today, and for years to come, a great thing for the city of Centerville. Sally, I have great respect for you, for me personally and on behalf of my family, our current city council members, the previous council members, and the thousands of residents in our city who have a better quality of life because of your leadership and commitment to Centerville. Congratulations, job well done. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, now we'd like to hear from our retired city manager, Greg Horn. Is this the first time you've been in a suit in 3 months? You think? Okay, good.
Still fit, which was amazing. So,
That's good.
I was very, very pleased about that. Thank you. We walked in here tonight and I saw the displays in the middle and knew right away the story of the wood. And they built their home in Centerville with wood from that farm and had it planed. I mean, that's the kind of forethought that goes into things at the Beals household. So it was interesting in listening to Nancy and to Johnny tonight. And Mayor, you are right. I looked over at my wife when the microphone wasn't working, and I saw you get up, and I said, "It's not my problem." So anyway, nice.
Let's go here.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was very nice to be here. I was told 4 minutes, and that's exactly what it will be, and I promise. As has been mentioned a few times tonight, our honoree this evening can be described as a wife of 59 years, a mother, a grandmother, a homemaker extraordinaire with a home economics degree. And I was listening to Nancy talk about the things that her mom did. And, she really was a Martha Stewart ahead of her time when you think about it. And she's also very sharp at investing. But thank God she stayed out of jail compared to Martha, so I give her credit for that. And as was mentioned, a lady farmer. She carries on the legacy of her family farm. She's as comfortable on a tractor brush hogging as she is scouring the woods for mushrooms, and we talk about mushrooms every year. Talked about American history. Sally is truly a historian, and the more you talk to her about American history, it's amazing her breadth of knowledge. there's probably not a presidential home that I can go to and come in and talk to Sally about, and she'll tell me what floor the president's boyhood room was on. So she's certainly an expert in American history. Sally was an elected official for 16 years. She served on city council, as mentioned, for 8 years, and Centerville's mayor for 8 years. And I had the extremely good fortune of working with Sally for 12 of those years. Sally's a proud OSU grad, a lifelong Buckeye fan, and I probably heard about all I wanted to hear about Buckeyes for those 12 years. She's a GraceWorks board member, a longtime Epiphany Lutheran member, and a longtime Centerville Rotarian. As was mentioned, she represented Centerville for several years in the board of the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. When she was chairperson, she and the director then, Nora Lake, lobbied extremely hard for the I-75 corridor, which really needed to be improved. And they worked with officials from Toledo to Kentucky. And so a lot of the effort that you've seen underway on I-75 in the last decade was a result of work that Sally laid when she was the chairman of MVRPC. Sally's been an advocate for the arts in the Dayton region. As was mentioned, she's been a committed supporter of the Centerville Arts Commission. The Stubbs Park July 4th concert still today features Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture with live black powder cannons due to Sally's persistence. I can tell you, I played hell finding somebody that was certified safely to discharge black cannons, but we found a cannoneer that was certified and insured, and that legacy has carried on at all the July 4th concerts, thanks to Sally's persistence. From a persistence standpoint, Sally was the first one to put Centerville on the map in Montgomery County for recycling. She was the one that pushed the county into starting recycling programs before it was popular and the thing to do. And as been mentioned, she and John have been stalwart supporters of Sister City for decades now. Sally always gave generously of her time and talents to make our community better. With then Mayor Shirley Heintz's support and encouragement, Sally, a council member, took on the leadership role to spearhead the city's challenging task to restore and renovate an overgrown 8.5-acre plot on North Main Street into what today we know as Benham's Grove. Sally always valued and championed the importance of strengthening our community's social fabric, and she truly understands the importance of creating a true sense of place for all of our residents to enjoy. As a council member, she played an instrumental role in the development and enhancement of Stubbs Park, Yankee Trace, and as mayor, she supported the construction of our new police station, its unique community lobby. I don't think there's one around like it. Our renovation of our municipal building, the expansion of Yankee Trace with a third 9 and housing options. Again, those were all during Sally's terms as mayor. The Rotary Gazebo, which Sally always corrects me on and says it's gazebo, at Benham's Grove was also started as a tag team effort of Sally and husband John. John solicited the Centerville Rotary and led construction, and Sally lobbied and worked the Friends of Benham's Grove and her colleagues on council to make it all happen. The ornamental clock next to Town Hall that Johnny spoke of, another vision of Sally's. It was promoted by her for a couple of years. She admired the Cincinnati-made Verdun clocks. With the help of the community, the Centerville-Washington Foundation, and a generous personal gift from John and Sally, it's now an icon in our downtown. Sally Beals has never been one to promote herself or to seek recognition. She was never a politician, and I used to kid her about it, but it was true. Sally rather was a proud elected office holder committed to her community. She tackles issues head on. That's always been her approach. She looks for solutions, and then she takes action. Sally doesn't sugarcoat things, as those of you know Sally, and she's not a glad-hander. And she tends to tell folks what she is thinking rather than what she thinks they just want to hear. Sally worked tirelessly for years toward the establishment of our community foundation. She continually spoke proudly about her hometown, Tip City, and what vision and success they had achieved through the establishment of their community foundation several decades ago. Her persistence and continued persistence in getting the ear of folks like the late Fred Smith helped make her vision a reality. And it's especially noteworthy that some of Sally's TIP friends and foundation supporters are in attendance to share this evening with her. Sally, you've certainly made our community a better place through your vision, your persistence, and your years of selfless service. Congratulations on your richly deserved recognition.
Thanks, Greg. Now, are you ready to hear from the one person who probably knows Sally the best? Her husband, John. Come on up, John.
Well, let's start out with answering Jack Lobeck's question of the other day, and he said, be sure to bring out how you and Sally met. And so we'll start out with that pathway. We met at Ohio State University, and somehow or another, our favorite flag happened to be brought out today to show. We try to run that up on game days. And as many of you know, when you go to a university and you don't know anyone there, you try to divide a university into a smaller grouping. Especially a place like Ohio State with some 59,000 students there, you have to find yourself in a smaller group, a group that you can relate to, and otherwise you get lost in that large grouping. And so the Lutheran Student Center became our group. And it was home to about 75, 80 students, I'd say, that came in for the various programs. And some Sunday mornings they'd be there, some Friday night and Saturday night parties they would be there, you know. But all in all, we had about 70, 80, maybe perhaps even a few more than that would come to the various activities. So Sally and I both were in that group and got to know each other as part of a group and taking place with their activities. They had a lot of square dances, and we'd go together and get our football tickets all together in one section at Ohio Stadium. And so we got to know each other over a period of time in probably the best of situations to where you were simply friends doing activities together. And of course that led to getting more affectionate as time went by, and took a lot of long walks. And Sunday nights, the Lutheran Student Association would put on a dinner for the evening of Sunday nights because the dormitories would not serve. And so we had a situation to where you would team up with other student members and go to the Big Bear store and buy your foods and then put on the meal. And then somebody had to stand at the doorway with a little cup to get their 50 cents each to help defray those costs. So anyway, that's where Sally and I met, and that's where our friendship and love started. And that, you might say, is kind of the beginning of our story. Now, my comments tonight really are covered by a lot of the people who have spoken before. Our situation is that we really are only honoring one person, and we're already hitting into various comments that are stepping on to comments made by others. But if you'll bear with me, I'll go through my comments, and then we'll be into the wrap-up situation. We're all looking forward to that at this time of night. Sally grew up in the small town of Tip City, some about 5,000 people at that time, and her mother was an executive secretary to a local business, and basically for her Sally's whole lifetime and career her mother was a working mother outside the family home, and that was that situation. And her dad had a variety of jobs. He was a very good-sized fellow, about 6'2.5", and broad-shouldered and particularly strong. And so he found himself in doing a lot of physical activities, and he was in the sand and gravel mining business for a while. He got contracts to help demolish the old interurban railway systems, and as he went out of those businesses, he put the leftovers of his equipment in the farm, in the woods, and in the buildings at the farm. And if you go back to Jennifer's comments earlier, she is very familiar with helping to do that cleanup of those items at the farm. She bonded particularly well with her father because he was the one who was there. Mother was at work. Dad would be there when she got on the weekends and after school and in the summers. And being a town girl, and he had bought the farm as an investment, by the way, from these others' endeavors. and he had a brother that wanted to get into the farming business, and so Dad bought the farm as an investment to help out the brother. But Sally, being an only child, and got to be kind of her father's son that he never had, and so they bonded very closely and doing all the activities at the farm. The pony called Beauty that Nancy referred to, and then from that pony became a Palomino stallion that was never gilded, by the way, and tried to throw me over the fence later on in my days, but unsuccessfully did that. But any of you who have grown up in a small town, of course, Miamisburg was my small town, you could walk to everywhere you wanted to go. You could ride your bicycle, church, schools, school activities, after school activities, Sally's band practices, for instance. The beauty of growing up in a small town is very special. And also in a situation like that, you get to know a lot of people. If the town's only 4,000 or 5,000 people, you get to know a lot of those people, and your family is well known, and not only do you get to know them, they get to know you. And so it's one of those things that you develop a good behavior pattern, because you don't want any stories getting back to Mom and Dad about anything less than that. So. And of course, it was brought out earlier that she was an excellent student, valedictorian of her class, and also she was following her mother's footsteps. Her mother was also the valedictorian of Tip City High School. And she's blessed with a tremendous memory and a tremendous interest in history and government. And to this day, our vacation trips focus on museums and local history, presidential history, available at that vacation site. So no ordinary golf vacations or vacations by the beach or into the Smoky Mountains, none of that sort of thing for us. Now on TV, her idea of TV shows to watch, of course, focus on public television, the History Channel, the C-SPAN featuring Brian Lamb in Q&A, Jeopardy, and Smithsonian's Aerial America, that sort of thing. And then occasionally an NCIS episode. So that's Sally's television pathway. Now, upon her dad's death, Sally tackled the cleanup of the farm and to help do something with all this aged construction equipment and getting that removed. And as I recall, it was quite a few loads of steel had to be hauled out of the woods to clean up the woods. And of course, our daughter Jennifer referred to the hopper was filled with oats, by the way. And of course, these varmints had gotten into the oats and had died because they had suffocated. So there's a lot of skeletons involved, and that was Jennifer's fine memory there. She takes pride in her abilities to operate the tractor and the bush hog and control of the weeds and the poison ivy and the husbandry of the wood lots, the 2 wood lots that are on the farm. And so for the past 30 years, she has planted a huge number of annual flowers at her Centerville home and has hosted garden tours several times. And about a dozen years ago, she successfully planted the crown of a pineapple. And we had been to Hawaii, and you know how you bring back the case of pineapple and you give out some pineapples here and some there and whatever. So she took the tops off of 2 pineapples, planted them, 1 died, 1 lived. And so this is in a pot. So in the summer times, it goes outside. In the winter, it comes into the window. And so the years started to go by, and we were into the 3rd year. Sally independently had decided that let's throw this thing out. We're not getting anywhere. And pineapple plants are not much fun. You have the leaves that come out on all kinds of angles, and to walk by, you feel like you're going to get scratched and so on. So they're not a fun plant. Well, that January, keeping that one more pineapple plant, giving it one more chance, we discovered the beginnings of a little pineapple in the center of it. And so it grew. It takes 6 months, by the way. When you first spot a pineapple growing, it takes 6 months for that to mature and to enjoy it. So from that humble beginning, why she now has a plantation of some 18 pineapple plants that are potted. They go outside in the summer and come inside in the winter. You know about those two-wheel dollies? Why, that's what they're for. And one year she harvested 15 pineapples off the 18 plants. So every year is not that successful, but that particular year was. And so that's her situation there. I skipped over her mother's situation. Her mother died earlier than the father, and so she got into the activities of what her mother had been doing and investing and so on, and she found out that mom had been dabbling into the stock market. And so, we knew very little about the stock market. So Sally, all through her career, has been very good at going to universities, Ohio State, University of Dayton, Wright State, and taking continuing education courses, whether it be in mathematics, whether it be in stocks and bonds, whether it be in German language, whatever. And some of this is required for continuing education to keep your teaching certificate alive. And to remind you, yes, home economics was her major, but it was home economics education. So she's a teacher, a school teacher of home ec, and so to refine that. So anyway, she became knowledgeable about the stock market then, puts and calls and buys and sells, and learned a lot of those details that are beyond me. And so anyway, that's a career that she got into that was put upon her upon the death of her mother. I have put together a series of bullets that kind of speak about the breadth of Sally's background. Several of these have been hit upon. Greg Horn knocked off a number of them, but if you'll bear with me, I'll knock these off, and that will conclude our comments. Jack, I see he's getting his hook ready, so that's his job. She is a wife of 59 years, a mother of 3, a grandmother to 4, a grandchild lover, a lifetime member of Lutheran Church. She's benevolent. She supports many groups. She's an OSU graduate and is also a supporter of their academics in the education field, by the way. She's a certified Ohio high school teacher. She's a reader of books, and her favorite authors happen to be a lot of historian types: Alan Eckersley, Stephen Ambrose, David McCullough, Ron Chernow. She's a stock market player. She's a fruit and vegetable canner. She's a baker, a clothing maker. She was elected to council for 8 years, elected as mayor for 8 years. She performed some 320 marriages as mayor. She was elected to the board of National League of Cities. She served 10 years on the board of Ohio Municipal League, served 10 years on the National Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee. She's elected president of the Miami Valley Research Planning Commission. She served on boards for Montgomery County and the State of Ohio Solid Waste Advisories. She's into regional recycling advocate, and of course I think our Centerville program is probably focused on Sally's energy too. She's a U.S. and presidential history whiz. She's a Benhams Grove leader. She's a vacation planner utilizing those AAA books that focus on the activities of a particular area and the museums and the history and the special sites that are available in that location. So we don't go on a trip without checking on our AAA books. She's a flower gardener. She, of course, is the potted pineapple plantation operator. She's a good Rotarian. She's a 153-acre grain farm manager. She's a firewood splitter operator. She's a farm tractor operator, a golfer, a tennis player, and a bicyclist, a Centerville-Washington Foundation founder. I give you Sally Frings Drewing Beals.
Sally, Unfortunately, Bob Bailey has the tie that your name will be engraved upon. And Bob is in Ireland, or on his way back.
Oh, okay.
But tonight, we have for you this memento, and you want to open it. It's just something to commemorate tonight. And one of the things that I thought as everybody was speaking, and Brooks talked about the Dr. Bennis and his definition of leadership. And I once heard a former Secretary of Labor talk about what leadership is and isn't. Leadership is not counting noses and deciding what to do. Leadership is crafting a vision and convincing people to follow. And you truly exhibit that. Thank you for all that you have done. Now, John said you're not going to say.
I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for the lovely evening and for the tribute. It's been great fun to reminisce, and believe me, this doesn't happen without the support of people like you. So thank you very much.
I would like to acknowledge, hey, Carol is a project manager extraordinaire. She's the one who kept us on task throughout the planning of this. And thank you for getting this together, Carol. You want to wrap it up?
I sure will. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight to help us recognize Sally, and have a good evening. Good night.